The giant male deer with a terrifying face and hideous fangs was called Bambi. At that moment, it was hunting a woman. Ultimately, the ill-fated woman was torn into two pieces by Bambi. Bambi once had a carefree life in the forest with his mother. One day, greedy poachers entered the forest. A gunshot rang out, taking the life of Bambi's mother. After countless hardships, Bambi finally grew up healthy and raised the next generation. However, tragedy struck once again. A truck from a local company, Webecker Pharmaceuticals, ran over the female deer while transporting toxic waste. In the ensuing panic, Bambi's child disappeared. In despair, Bambi drank water from a river contaminated by toxic waste. The chemicals caused a terrible mutation in its body, turning it into a bloodthirsty creature bent on revenge. Unaware of all this, a young woman named Xana was sitting in a taxi, preparing to take her son Benji to visit his grandmother. Halfway there, a giant deer suddenly appeared in the middle of the street. The 2-ton car was lifted by the deer's antlers and flipped over. Because Xana and Benji were in the back seat, they were not injured. But the driver's leg was pinned by twisted metal, and he couldn't get out. Worse yet, the deer didn't leave. It continuously stomped on the car with its hooves. As the car began to collapse, Xana apologized to the driver, then pulled Benji out from the other side. Only after running for more than 30 feet did she dare to look back. The giant deer was now standing on the overturned car, roaring furiously at them, its mouth full of sharp fangs. It was the mutated Bambi. Meanwhile, far down the dark road, an old woman in a white nightgown was wandering along the edge of the forest, muttering Bambi's name. She seemed to be able to see through the darkness and watch Xana and Benji being hunted. This woman was Benji's grandmother named Mary. As for Benji's family, they were in a nearby house preparing dinner. Benji's uncle Andrew had prepared a lavish steak dinner to welcome the mother and son. His aunt, Harriet, lazily sipped her wine, complaining that Benji's father, Simon, was irresponsible. He was absent from such an important gathering and hadn't even called beforehand. Simon's younger brother, Joshua, quickly explained that cell phones had no signal in these mountains, and the landline had been disconnected because Mary, who had dementia, kept making false alarm calls to the police. Hearing this, Harriet suddenly realized she hadn't seen Mary for a while. She rushed outside to search and eventually brought Mary back. Harriet had Mary sit on the sofa next to her husband's son, Harrison, reminding him to keep an eye on her, but Harrison was too absorbed in his game to pay attention to her words. Just then, Mary spoke up, saying softly, "They're here." At the same moment, Xana and Benji burst through the front door, panting after their desperate escape. It seemed Mary's dementia concealed some ability to foresee the future. Quickly, Xana recounted her terrifying encounter. Andrew, a calm and steady person, suggested they should stay home until dawn and then call the police. Joshua thought Andrew was too heartless. The poor driver was still trapped in the car. The sooner they called for help, the better his chance of being saved. He grabbed his coat and went outside to find a signal to call for help. Elsewhere, 3 bounty hunters were scouring the forest with rifles. They were hired by Webecker Pharmaceuticals to capture Bambi for money, but instead of finding Bambi, they discovered the overturned car. The driver was gone, probably already in Bambi's stomach. While rummaging through the wreckage, they found the phone Xana had dropped. They guessed its owner had been attacked. Therefore, by following the tracks, they could capture Bambi. Excited, they raised their guns and followed Xana's trail. But they soon ran into Joshua. In the pitch-black forest, a hunter named Tyler mistook him for Bambi and pulled the trigger. Joshua was killed instantly. Meanwhile, in the living room, Mary began to draw frantically in her sketchbook. Each drawing showed a giant deer. Benji frowned at the sketches. The more he looked, the more it resembled the creature that had attacked them. Mary walked to the window, staring outside without blinking. Soon, the lights outside flickered. A dead bird suddenly fell. Benji screamed for Xana. She rushed over just as Bambi smashed through the window and burst into the living room. It swung its razor-sharp antlers, chasing them frantically. The whole family screamed and scattered. Harriet hid in a kitchen cabinet, panting in fear, but then drops of liquid dripped onto her head. She slowly looked up, and there, Bambi's monstrous, fang-filled mouth was waiting above her. Harriet screamed and ran into the bathroom. She slammed the door shut, but Bambi was terrifyingly intelligent. It actually used its hoof to push the door open. In a panic, Harriet tried to escape through the window, but she was too stressed to open it. Just then, Bambi burst in. Its antlers struck Harriet right in the buttocks. She let out a pained scream, then squeezed through the window with all her might. Meanwhile, Xana and the others took the opportunity to help Mary into the RV. But when Andrew tried to start the old vehicle, it wouldn't budge. Just then, Bambi and Harriet's deadly chase came into their view. Everyone held their breath in horror. Harriet, unable to escape it, was torn in half by Bambi's sharp antlers, dying instantly. At that moment, the vehicle finally roared to life, spewing black smoke as it sped down the dark forest road. Bambi left Harriet's corpse behind and chased after them. Its speed was terrifying. It quickly caught up, ramming the side of the vehicle with its antlers. Harrison found some rocks and leaned out the window to throw them at Bambi's head, but the attack had no effect. It only made Bambi even angrier. It charged faster, soon running parallel to the vehicle. Harrison, terrified, locked the window and crawled back to his seat. At the same time, Andrew struggled with the gear shift. It was stuck and wouldn't move. Xana quickly reached over to help. Together, they finally managed to shift it into 5th gear. The old vehicle shot forward at full speed, slowly leaving Bambi behind. Meanwhile, the 3 hunters who had accidentally killed Joshua continued to follow the trail. They arrived at Mary's house, which now looked like a demolition site where Harriet lay dying. Excitement showed on their faces. Bambi was surely nearby. On the other side, Andrew drove along the forest road for more than 10 minutes before they had to stop again. A giant log blocked the road. They all got out of the vehicle to tie a rope and pull it away. Only Xana, Benji, and Mary remained in the vehicle. Then, from the end of the road, a blood-curdling roar echoed. Bambi was coming. Benji was in a complete panic. Without a second thought, he slammed his foot on the gas pedal. Unfortunately, the rope was still tangled around Andrew's leg. He was yanked off his feet and dragged along the ground, his flesh torn to shreds. His screams echoed until he died. Harrison ran after the vehicle and quickly became exhausted. Bambi, realizing it couldn't catch the vehicle, turned around and charged toward Harrison. Terrified, Harrison hurriedly ran into the forest. He stumbled forward blindly and was nearly caught. Then he tripped, landing face first in a pile of animal dung. Bambi was looming right behind him. In that life-or-death moment, Harrison buried his face deeper into the smelly mess. The stench was so strong that Bambi decided Harrison was no longer fresh. Finally, Bambi turned and walked away. Harrison had narrowly escaped death. He didn't dare wipe his face, simply running deeper into the forest. Suddenly, a rabbit jumped out, blocking his path. Both scared and angry, Harrison kicked it hard to vent his frustration, but after 1, 5, 6, 7 more rabbits jumped down from the trees. Under the moonlight, Harrison saw that they too had been mutated. Their mouths were jagged with sharp fangs. As the rabbits swarmed, Harrison continuously backed away. Then he tripped on something and fell into a steel hunter's trap. The snapping trap nearly tore him apart. He lay there bleeding, barely breathing. The mutated rabbits hopped closer, surrounding him, and soon they would tear him to pieces. As for Benji, he continued to drag Andrew until the vehicle ran out of gas. Only then did Xana remember that Andrew was still tied to the back. She rushed to look, but Andrew had been dragged so much that only half of his body remained. He could no longer be saved. Just then, Mary, who had dementia, suddenly became lucid. She got out of the car on her own and walked straight into the forest, constantly muttering, "Death! Death!" Just as Xana pulled Mary back, Benji noticed something on the ground. He lit a flare. In its red light, they saw the ground was littered with bones. They had accidentally wandered into Bambi's lair. Horrified, Xana grabbed Mary and Benji and hurried back to the road. Fortunately, they soon came across a passing vehicle. Xana waved it down, begging for help, but the driver was none other than Michael, the leader of the hunters. He had witnessed Harrison's death at the hands of the rabbits on a surveillance camera and had come here intentionally. Michael took them to a base. When the car stopped, footsteps emerged from the darkness. Michael drew his gun, ready to fire, but the figure quickly stepped out with a greeting. It was another professional hunter. Michael lowered his weapon. The man was Benji's father, Simon. It turned out Simon hadn't come home because he was pursuing the massive bounty on Bambi. He had been secretly planning in the forest. Only when he saw his wife and son did he reveal himself. But the couple immediately started arguing. Xana blamed Simon for dragging the whole family into this nightmare, which had killed most of their family, and yet he still refused to call the police. Simon argued back that if they called the police, his plan would be ruined, and he might even go to jail. While they were arguing, Benji noticed something. 2 hunters, Tyler and Eddie, were tormenting a fawn in a cage. That little deer was Bambi's lost child. The hunters quietly took it into the forest, hoping to use it as bait to catch Bambi. Just then, Tyler wanted to relieve himself and wandered off, but Bambi was already waiting nearby. It charged silently. With an upward thrust of its antlers, it sent Tyler's head flying. When Eddie noticed Tyler had been gone too long, he went to check. Instead, he found Tyler's body. He vomited in horror, knowing that Bambi was near. Panicked, he ran toward the vehicle. But just as he climbed inside, Bambi's monstrous head smashed the glass and lunged at him. Eddie was brutally killed on the spot. Meanwhile, Benji, feeling immense pity for the fawn, waited until the hunters were gone. He quietly opened the cage, picked up the little deer, and held it in his arms. Michael, watching the monitors in another room, saw Benji's actions ruining his plan. He immediately grabbed his gun and rushed outside. At the same time, Xana realized Benji was gone. She stopped arguing with Simon, called her son's name, and searched everywhere. But what she found was the hunter's secret storage of corpses. Here, Xana found the missing Joshua. She realized Michael and his men were ruthless outlaws. Her fear grew even stronger. But someone was even more terrified, the female hunter Joe, who was guarding the base. At that moment, Bambi had broken inside. It opened its bloody jaws toward the motionless Mary, but Mary didn't seem scared at all. She just sat there, quietly looking into Bambi's eyes. Watching through the camera, Joe spotted Bambi. She quickly gathered her things, planning to run, but she made too much noise, immediately attracting Bambi's attention. It turned its head and charged straight at her. With no escape route, Joe took a desperate gamble. She shot a nearby gas canister. The explosion erupted in an instant, lighting up the night sky. Xana and Benji used that moment to find each other. The family was finally reunited, but Michael burst in with a pistol, demanding that Benji hand over the fawn. Benji just held it tighter. Knowing that Michael would actually pull the trigger, Simon urged Benji to let it go.
Give it to us! No!
Please, Simon.
But the explosion hadn't killed Bambi at all. Flames still clung to its fur as it charged at Michael. Michael quickly turned his gun, firing multiple shots, but Bambi ran through the barrage of bullets, rammed him, and disappeared into the forest. Michael's phone fell to the ground. Xana bent down to pick it up, but Simon snatched it first. Then the terrifying Bambi returned, its eyes fixed on the fawn in Benji's arms. At the critical moment, Simon, afraid of going to jail, abandoned his wife and child. He took the phone and ran. Xana understood that Bambi's real target was the fawn, so she gently placed it on the ground. The moment the fawn touched the ground, Bambi calmed down. It didn't attack Xana at all. Instead, it bent down and licked the fawn's head. Just then, Michael, covered in blood, crawled back. He aimed his gun for a sneak attack. The bullet hit Bambi's vulnerable underbelly. Bambi let out a mournful roar and collapsed. As Xana was sinking into despair, Mary suddenly appeared like a warrior holding a shotgun. She fired one shot and killed Michael instantly. As for Simon, who had fled in a car earlier, he soon discovered that a strange rabbit had appeared inside. Sensing danger, he reached for the door. Today's story ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel to follow along with me for more movies.